This Monday, January 19th, it's all on the line. It is the College Football National Championship. A winner will be crowned. And to find out who that winner is, plus much more bets you should be taking this national championship, stay tuned. Welcome, football fans, to another edition of the D-Gen Docs, a special national championship edition of the D-Gen Docs here on DFSG Plus. What is up, folks? I'm one of your hosts, the Doc here, and more importantly, I am joined by my brother in degeneracy, Mr. Derek Bennett, aka Professor Locks. How we doing tonight, brother?
We're doing just fine, man. I mean, we got the NFL playoffs rolling. We got the college national championship game in just 4 days.
Just fine.
I mean,
I need the energy levels up, man. This is the last college show of the season.
We're doing just fine.
Just fine. As you can tell right away, if you're brand new, the energy level differences it'll definitely show throughout the episode. Derek, much more disciplined, level-headed. Myself, not always. We'll see. But hey, look, folks, if this is your first time joining us, this is the College Football Playoff National Championship Best Bets and Player Props episode. Look, if this is your first time joining us, cheers to you. Thanks for coming along at the tail end of the season. We've been rocking this out all season long. And, of course, we are going to now continue with the National Championship picks. And, of course, double cheers to you if you've been rocking with us all season long here. The way this is going to work, pretty simple show structure today, folks. We are going to do a little bit of some semifinal reactions, but it's all about the national championship. It is all about the king of college football. Who will be the crown? We've got the Miami Hurricanes. We've got the Indiana Hoosiers. We've got storylines. We've got bets. We've got a ton to get to here. And as you can see, my cat is very interested in who's going to win this game. So I hope you are too, but cheers to, I don't know if you got a beverage over there. I think it's a school night for you. So, cheers to you for a college football season here. It's been a solid year, and I'm excited to wrap this up here because I think we got a hell of a game. But let's get it started. College football semifinals were last weekend here. I want your instant takeaways, reactions. I guess not very much instant, but what are your takeaways from that semifinal round, the Fiesta Bowl and the Peach Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, starting off with that Thursday game, the Fiesta Bowl, what a game, man. What a game. I mean, we were kind of going back and forth between Miami and Ole Miss, and we both ended up on, sadly, the losing side. We were both on Ole Miss, but Trinidad Chambliss, absolute stud. I honestly, I knew that Mark Fletcher was a pretty good back, but coming into the playoffs, it was like, okay, he's fine, he's good,
Right. Yeah.
He's a good piece. That dude's a freaking tank to bring down. Yeah, I mean, Miami's gotten their running game going extremely well over the last 2 or 3 games here, and moving on to the Sunday game, I mean, what a bloodbath. from first snap, Indiana just rolled, and Oregon looked like, the team of the blind, rolling in there to Atlanta. I think
Beach Bowl in Atlanta.
Yeah. So I mean, this is gonna be an interesting matchup between I'll say a perennial powerhouse, at least 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And Indiana, who coming into the season had the most losses in the history of college football. Yeah. But what a game that we have coming up here on Monday. It'll be interesting to see where you land for this game.
It's only one game. We're going to figure out if we're on the same side or not.
Right.
But yeah, for me, Fiesta Bowl, Miami, Ole Miss, like you said, Thursday, shootout, really fun game.
Yeah. Overhit, that was nice.
The overhit, yep, you did have that, cash that. We'll get to the record recap here in a second, but yeah, very entertaining game. It was funny because it seemed like and the stat sheet will kind of show you Miami almost dominated this game.
Yeah.
It felt like they should be up more, and lo and behold, Ole Miss took a lead,
Yeah.
3-point lead there, late in the game. Now,
dropped a couple picks that
I would
were
say
literally in their hands, and yes, I agree.
Miami had been playing very clean football,
Yes.
very disciplined football these first two games. This is where we saw a little bit of the old Miami. A lot of bad penalties, a lot of undiscipline. You talked about the drop, missed opportunities, the turnovers for Carson Beck. Those started to show their ugly head, and that's where kind of things can go off the rails for this team. I will give Carson Beck credit as someone who's crushed Carson Beck over the years, because I don't think he is a great quarterback. Miami in the playoff run has coddled him because they've been able to run the ball and establish a run. And he kind of had to step up and make some throws, and he did deliver, obviously running in that touchdown for the game-winning touchdown. I will say, I think this is where Ole Miss's lack of an actual true coach really came to burn them. Because we were talking about it, that last drive, if Mario Cristobal, he could be ultra conservative to the point of where you bang your head against the wall.
Yep.
I am 100% convinced he was very okay with kicking the field goal, not taking a risk to try to score, and sending this to overtime. There was a play where I think there was 30-something seconds left. Carson Beck tried to run a QB draw. He got tackled for -1 yard, and Ole Miss called a timeout. Yeah. And they called back-to-back timeouts. And I just thought that was insane, not knowing the coach on the other sideline. Mario Cristobal, again, he would have been fine. And then you gave him an opportunity and kind of let it wide open for them to really try to score a touchdown there.
Right.
But it was a very entertaining game for the Fiesta Bowl. And then the Peach Bowl, man. I mean, we hit that nail on the head. We were both on Indiana. We both took some Indiana alt lines. I don't know if we even thought it was going to be this much of a domination. You want to talk about, I know the whole belt to ass thing, like it's always funny. A term starts one way to mean something, and then more people get it, and it just kind of takes a turn. Belt to ass is supposed to mean what Indiana did to Oregon, what Indiana did to Alabama. Marvin Harris, or Michael Irvin, taking out the belt and whipping it against Ole Miss. That's not belt to ass, brother. That is something completely different. So what you saw Indiana do, that is belt to ass, and that was complete domination there. So we'll see.
Was that Ole Miss, or I think that was Ohio State that he did that?
He's done it every time.
Oh, really?
I think that's like his thing.
Even realize
even Ohio State, I mean, that game was 10-point loss.
Yeah.
I don't think that, I wouldn't consider that belt to ass. I mean, take out the pick six and that's a coin flip. But yeah, let's get to the record recap because we kind of mentioned it here. So, look, not a bad week overall. Yeah. You were 2-2. You hit your lock. We both hit our locks. Yep. You are now 8-4 on your picks in the college football playoff. Yep. I was 1-1 on the sides. I hit my lock as well with Indiana taking the outs, but we were 7-3 on the player props, including some touchdown props, some nice juicy payouts there. So hopefully you were tailored to that. If you listened to us last week, there is no way you did not make money unless you just simply decided to fade us, and that's on you at your own risk. Fade at your own risk here. Right. But look, man, it's time to talk national championship. It's what the whole season's came to. It's been a very fun season. Second season of the 12-team college football playoff. Yeah. These are teams where you got the 1 seed who, in a normal playoff they'd be there, but then you have the little bit of the Cinderella story in Miami, the 10 seed, the last team really in that many people didn't think would get in. Yeah. Look at them now, Yeah,
I have a question for you. We had the college football playoff last year. They made some tweaks, right?
Right.
As far as the seeding stuff, do you think they make any tweaks moving forward? Do we get to a 16? Do we do?
Dude, I don't
Power 5 or non-Power 4 conference.
Right. I'll say this, man. I think that there's a possibility with the way college football is, but I'm against it. I think they're changing shit too much. Yeah. I think football is such a pure product. And when you get these corporate, greedy business people that never played the game, don't really care for it, they start to make decisions and all they think about is dollars. So I don't think we need to expand it. I think we need to get rid of this stupid committee where you have very unqualified, very biased individuals
Yeah.
making decisions purely about dollar signs. I think that would be more beneficial. But as far as where the sport's going with the transport and NIL, like, who knows, man? It's
Yeah.
such a wild, wild west. So we could absolutely see 16 teams. Like,
Yeah.
what I think they need to do is, one, make more home games. The bowl
That's
games, like, come on, dude.
that
You don't.
that would be what I would want as well. I wouldn't mind them getting to 16 and just letting everybody play in that first round. If a 2 seed goes down, then
It's March
they
Madness,
shouldn't
bro. I mean,
exactly, then they shouldn't have been the 2 seed to begin with.
right.
But I think in my perfect world, make it 16. Every first round game is at least the first round is a
Oh yeah, I want the
home
first
game. Potentially the first two. Once we get into this
Final
the
Four.
semifinals, once we
Yeah,
get into the semifinals, once we get down to that final four, then okay, put it, one at the Rose Bowl, one at the Peach
sure.
Bowl, and then have the national championship in Vegas or wherever it's going to be next year.
Yeah.
And roll with it then.
I agree with you. Yep, first 2 rounds definitely at home. I mean, just think about it. Like, I was talking to my wife. Think about, say one of. I mean, I know your team just made it, right? Like
Yeah.
Ohio State.
Yeah.
They play in the Big Ten championship. All right, you're in Indiana. Maybe that's not too far of a trip, but it's still a trip.
Sure.
I mean, right? And then you gotta go on the road. I know they got a bye or something like that, right?
Yep.
But let's say you don't get a bye.
Yep.
You get a home game, and then you got to go on the road, and then you got to go on the road again, and then if you make national championship, you're on the road again. I mean, Oregon's the best example, and we kind of saw the fatigue with the overwhelming amount of Indiana
Holy
fans.
smokes, that was insane.
But I kind of don't blame Oregon. I mean,
No.
you just went to Miami.
Not at all.
Now you got to go to Atlanta, and then if you win that game, you go back to Miami. I mean, that's 3 cross-country trips in a month.
Yeah.
Who the fuck is going to these games?
Especially for the Oregons, the Georgias, the teams that literally they're on the coast,
Yeah, and
you're traveling 4 or 5 hours.
They're in the
Both
mix
records.
every year. So, I mean,
Right.
it's just insane what they're trying to ask college football fans to do. And that kind of brings me to my next point is, it's a little bit of a soapboxy. So, earmuffs or fast forward if you don't want to hear it. But it's talking about the ticket allotment.
Yeah.
And, so the ticket allotment for this game, if you're unaware, it's very similar to a lot of major sporting events. We're seeing Super Bowl and whatever, and all these other sports that I don't care about because they're not football. 20,000 tickets to each team. So 20,000 allotted to Indiana, 20,000 allotted to Miami, and then 25,000, more than a third allotted to corporate and packages. What the fuck is that, man? Like, we're just so it's basically going to be a bunch of rich folks who don't give a shit about the game. They're not a fan of either team, but they get to just be there to post on social media, and so you can rub elbows with some bigwigs. Like, I just hate what they're doing to major sporting events. Like, it's supposed to be about the fans, the diehard fans. You think about these Indiana fans that a couple years ago there was, I mean, you can talk about bandwagon, whatever, but like they had no reason to be excited about Indiana football for the last 100 years.
No.
And now, you're a diehard Indiana fan. You stuck through them all those years, and what? You got to fly to Miami. You got to pay $3,000 to get in if you get a ticket, right?
Yep.
Because Joe Schmo, as owner of a corporation, or he gets a business suite for his friends or his family, or who don't give a shit. Like, I don't know, man. I could just be on the soapbox, but I just think that's so piss poor to the sport. How they're pricing out real fans.
Yeah, especially the percentage, like you said. I mean, if you're going to give some to corporate people, okay, make it 15% or whatever.
Sure.
Allow the majority of the tickets to go to the universities, to the alumni bases, to the supporters who have been with them from week 1 all the way through.
Reward the fans, man, especially if you're making them do this crazy travel stuff, just so you can pull in the money. So I do hope, like, it's especially in the way of the world, money, capitalism, free market, whatever. I get it. Yep. I'm not against that, but like at a certain point, when is enough going to be enough? Sure. You can talk about that with the transfer portal, with these kids trying to get the extra dollar. Like, at some point, you got to realize it's not all about the money. But hey, that's for another time in the offseason. I know that's not what you came here for. You came here for the national championship, best bets, player props, anytime touchdowns, locks. We've got it all here. Very juiced up to talk about this game. Let's just get into it, man. Let's go ahead and flip over here. This is Monday, January 9th, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We've got the 13-2, number 10 seed Miami Hurricanes taking on the 15-0, number 1 seed Indiana Hoosiers. This is in Miami Gardens at the Hard Rock Stadium. This is where Miami does play their home games, even though it is not on campus. You still have to drive to get there, which is always kind of funny. I hate those stadiums.
Yeah.
But look, Indiana, big favorite. They're laying 8.5, -110. Just updated it now. I think it's -105 now on DraftKings. We're doing the odds over on DraftKings, but we'll let you know where all our bets come from if they're not there. Miami catching the 8.5. Plus 270 on the money line for Miami, -340 for Indiana. Over under sitting at 47.5. So not a huge total for a big spread. Look, it's Florida, so it's going to be 60 degrees and clear skies here. I'll do a little bit of an injury report because we kind of got one, with the big game, the kind of caliber, and then I'll kick it over to Derek to get our initial analysis. And as we're going to spend, the whole episode talking about this game. So, all right, let's do Indiana first because they're the easiest. They've got 2 guys out on their defensive line, but they've been out for at least multiple weeks. Stephen Daly, they're very productive defensive lineman from Kent State, if I believe that's correct, to transfer in. Unfortunately, after the Big Ten Championship, he was celebrating with some fans like a true athlete should, and he messed up his knee. He's out for the season. Again, they haven't had him all college football playoffs, but he was worthy of mentioning. And then defensive lineman Keelan Wallet, who did get some reps and playing time. He was in the transfer portal, so he's not playing as well. They didn't have him for the Oregon game, but he's a newer loss. So they are a little bit limited in their depth. I mean, this is, say what you say about Indiana. They don't have a lot of depth on that defensive side of the ball. They kind of play 12, 13 guys, and that's it. So just something to note if someone goes down. But everybody who played in the Peach Bowl against Oregon is healthy and good to go. They had a couple guys get some nicks and bruises, but they were just some small times things. Miami side's a little bit different, still pretty healthy. Big news, starting cornerback Xavier Lucas has been suspended for the first half of the game due to a questionable targeting penalty. That's another topic for the offseason about targeting and that made-up rule that, is allowed to the NCAA to manipulate some things. But he's out for the first half. And then you've got a slew of guys that went down in that game. Defensive end, one of their stars, Akeem Mesidor, outside of, Ruben Bain on the other side. He messed up his elbow, but he did return, and he's very likely to play. Defensive tackle Ahmad Moten, he came into the game with an ankle injury. He went out of the game last week, but then he came back and played, so he's probable. OJ Frederic, who only played a couple snaps against Oregon, he's probable in this one. Chris Paul says all 3 of those guys should be good to go, barring any random setbacks. They do have Elijah Lofton, their tight end, who was coughing up blood on the sidelines of the Oregon game. He is a true question mark. So he is questionable whether he's going to be able to go. At best, he'll be limited, but it sounds like they may be down their starting tight end. And then defensive back Damari Brown has not played this college football playoff. He was a starter in that lineup, a key contributor. He's called day to day. Sounds like, probably unlikely, but those 2 guys, Lofton and Brown, are definitely question marks. So Miami a little bit more beat up, but overall, both these teams pretty much at full strength the way they've been the whole college football playoff. So not a ton. Thankfully, that's how we want this game to be played, best on best. All right, brother, it's your turn, man. Let's talk analysis. How do you see this game going? What side are you taking?
Yeah, before we get to, sides and those kind of things, this game is going to be interesting because, yes, it is played in Miami.
Right.
This is where the Hurricanes play all their home games.
Correct.
It'll be interesting to see, what the crowd distribution is going to be. We talked a little bit about, each school gets 20,000 tickets or whatever.
Right.
This is a home game for Miami, but is it potentially a home game for Fernando Mendoza? He grew up in Miami. His family's from there.
Absolutely.
Wasn't recruited by Miami
there. Yeah.
But I think this is going to be an interesting game for a variety of different reasons. Indiana all season has had a really dominant defense.
Yep.
As of late, Miami's defense has looked really, really good.
Yeah.
They went up against the team this past week in Ole Miss that plays the style of offense in which Miami struggles. And Indiana, I think, just has a very different scheme offensively than teams like Ole Miss and SMU and Louisville, who beat them, earlier in the season.
Right.
At the same time, Fernando Mendoza, that dude's special. I mean, his brain and his ability to pick apart a defense
Yeah.
is legit. I think it's going to be what separates him once he does go and declare for the NFL draft and
Right.
gets up to the next level. But at the same time, we just watched this Indiana team absolutely destroy Oregon.
Yeah.
Sort of. I mean, Oregon turned the ball over 3 times. One was a pick six.
Right.
One turnover was on like the 4-yard line or whatever it was. Gave them 14 points.
Absolutely.
Miami, on the other hand, allowed Ole Miss to score 27, but their defense is pretty rested. I mean, if we look at the time of possession of the Fiesta Bowl,
control that game. Yeah,
they had the ball for 41 minutes. I mean, it was insane. Yeah. So this is. I mean, it's a national championship game. It's always going to be challenging to pick because we have 2 of the best teams in the country, right? But at the end of the day, if you're giving me 8.5 points and the home team, I'm going to take that. I know that Indiana has been blowing people out, but I do think that they've gotten basically every bounce that they could. Dante Moore played his worst game of the season by far. And Miami, yes, they didn't look as dominant against Ole Miss as they did in their first two games, but they're a gritty team that just finds a way to win over the last 3 weeks. And in general, I'll go ahead and take Carson Beck, who has been playing better, even though you do have the Heisman Trophy winner on the other side.
Yeah. Look, I'll say this. This was tough. It's a big spread, right? Big spread in the national championship. You wouldn't expect it. I know we've had a few in the past. I think the Ohio State Notre Dame one was pretty big last year.
It was.
Ohio State.
I think it was 7.5. I think it was 7.5.
Yeah, I think they wound up winning by 8 or 9 or 10 or something like that.
They covered.
They covered by a little bit. So, but I did try to hear the Miami side out. There is a little bit of I don't love Miami. I'm a Florida Gators fan, so it's kind of fuck Miami. But as tried to be an unbiased handicapper and kind of truly think about this game and how it's going to go. And it is hard. It is a big spread, but I am ultimately going to be on Indiana minus 8.5. And I'm also going to be on them minus 13.5 plus 150 because they've been beating the shit out of everybody. And here's the biggest things for me. I think this game is going to come down to coaching. I think that Mario Cristobal,
massive
coaching edge.
Look,
Mario Cristobal, to his credit, this year, or not this year really, because he's lost 2 games he shouldn't have with Louisville and SMU. Yeah. But this college football playoff, it has not reared its ugly head. Now he's had extra time to prepare. He's got 10 days here. Is that enough? Blah, blah, blah. But I think this is clearly the biggest coaching mismatch that we're going to see this season. In this college football playoffs, I believe. Ole Miss, they don't have a coach. I understand the Pete Golding thing. The dude was never a head coach. Like, he's a defensive coordinator. Look at the sideline. Joe Judge is the one managing that game.
Yeah.
Joe Judge is the same dude who ran a quarterback sneak on 3rd and 10 or whatever the hell he did, man. Like, they don't have a head coach, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, they
with
play
the coaching thing, I completely agree. Curt Cignetti, I'm taking him 10 times out of 10, twice on Sunday over Mario Cristobal. The one thing that kind of brings me back towards Miami is their defensive coordinator, Huberman.
Yeah,
was the defensive coordinator under Curt Cignetti when he was at JMU. So I do think there's going to be some familiarity there. I do think that he's going to have an understanding of what Curt Cignetti and that Indiana teams are going to want to do.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But I got 3 major points, so I'm going to Indiana. Coaching, number 1. Curt Cignetti, way above Mario Cristobal. Preparation, game plan, things like that.
Yep.
Quarterback. Okay. And this is where a lot of this national narrative, maybe it's just social media bullshit, but talking about Indiana. At first, it was, why would we take Indiana seriously? They're a basketball school. And then it was like, oh, they played a weak schedule last year, so they just had some cupcakes. Look what happened. They lost to, Ohio State, Notre Dame, who played in the college football playoff championship last year, the best two
Yep.
teams in college football, right? Yep. And then it became, oh, wow, Indiana may be good. No. They're just old. They are so much older. There was a false report that came out. It wasn't even a report because the ages aren't really readily available. Someone just kind of did some napkin math and just assumed they were older. If you actually look at their true ages, I think it's very much like all four playoff teams were, the Final Four were all very similar ages. I think they were almost like second youngest. But anyway, like, how are you going to have this conversation? And you got Carson Beck on the other side with Miami, who's a fifth-year senior, who's been around, the same draft class, should have been as CJ Stroud, someone who's actually playing in the NFL playoffs, right? So I think that to discredit this Indiana team, stop trying to. Sometimes the story is just good. Really, both of these stories are good. Like, Indiana was a laughing stock up until 3 years ago. Natty comes in. And then Miami, they haven't been relevant for 20-plus years.
Yep.
One of their own.
Sneak into the college football playoff.
And it's nothing fancy. I'm going to punch you in the mouth. I'm an offensive lineman. So I think both these, like, stop trying to shit on stuff.
Yeah.
But
these are definitely, we talk about the trenches all the time.
Yeah.
By far, two of the best, if not the best.
This game is going to be
defensive linemen in the country.
It is going to be such a good football watch from pure, I cannot wait. But quarterbacks, so coaches, I'm on Indiana. Yep. Quarterbacks, you have Carson Beck, right, who I think has been coddled. He has played very well in the college football playoffs. Yeah. He has not been asked to do a lot except for last game. He did have to lead them on his drive. That Ole Miss defense is a big liability. I would say that was arguably one of the worst defenses out of the Power 4 schools that made the playoff. I think that was easily the worst defense. So, great. He looked good against them. But let's see what happens when he goes against Indiana. And Mendoza, man, can we just talk about this? You gave him his flowers, but in the college football playoffs, in 2 games, he has 8 touchdowns and 5 incompletions. I mean, that's incredible. Against Alabama, okay, maybe they didn't deserve to be there. But Oregon's defense they shut out Texas Tech, who was one of the highest scoring teams in the country. So, Mendoza, I'm taking the Heisman winner in Mendoza over Carson Beck, who I think when he has to throw the ball, can turn the ball over. Yeah. So that's where I'm going on the quarterback. And
don't get, to your point, yes. Fernando Mendoza has been playing lights out, more touchdowns than interceptions. He's thrown the ball 36 times in 2 games.
It's true. It's a good point. It's a good point.
Carson Beck threw the ball 37 times just this last week. He's played in 3.
That is completely fair. But I am saying that's who I trust more in the big spot, in the big moment, Mendoza. But that is a great point. Look, we're on the opposite sides, and this is, again, it's a big spread. So I totally understand. Not naive to the fact that there are arguments.
I definitely completely understand your 3 points, and they're very real.
And then the last one for me, and this is where I think the biggest difference comes from, is discipline. I think that this is something that is completely overlooked, especially in college football, even in the NFL. Yeah. And to Miami's credit, the first 2 games, they played very clean. Yep. But Miami football, what are they known for, especially these last 10, 15 years?
Ride that edge.
They are not disciplined, right? Yep. That whole convicts versus Catholics, which one, I'm not going to, I watched that 30 for 30.
Great documentary.
30. It's a cool name. I think that was unfair to call them convicts. However, they were more undisciplined. That was their play style. They're just so much better than you. They don't give a shit if you're going to throw a flag. They're going to showboat. They're going to be doing their thing. We saw a little bit of that last game against Ole Miss. They should have beat the brakes off Ole Miss, and they let them
turnover battle. I think they had 10 penalties.
You cannot do that against Indiana. Indiana is the one team that they will not beat themselves. So if Miami is not going to play the cleanest game of football they ever have, which I don't think they can, that is where I'm going with that one. So it's the coach, it's the quarterback, and it's the discipline. Because you're right. On paper, talent-wise, if you buy into all that stars bullshit, Miami's the more talented team on paper, right? And on paper, roster-wise, I think these are 2 very evenly matched stars. Right. I think they're very evenly matched. But I just think that coaching, quarterback, and discipline is going to be the difference in this game. I think it's going to lead to some turnovers, and we'll get into it in the props. But I will say, like, you do have to give Miami credit, regardless of what side you're on. They have overperformed as far as they played up to their potential in
Yes.
this one. And that was always the kind of the situation with Miami. They're going to have the talent. They have the money. They have the appeal of being really good in the 90s and the 2000s.
Yep.
But
And the
shout out
appeal
to
of
the
South
team.
Beach.
Yeah. If you're going to tell me, am I going to go to 9 degrees in Bloomington, Indiana, or am I going to go
Coral
to
Gables is pretty nice.
90 and see some things? Yeah, I don't blame them. So, all right, let's get into some props. As a reminder, I'm going to roll through these. Absolutely. Feel free to put any of your input in. I thankfully live in a state where you can bet college football playoff props. Derek does not. So we'll roll through these. But again, 7-3 on the props last week between the two games. So we're hoping to keep rolling here. All right. First one, Riley Nowakowski,
There it
the
is.
tight end for Indiana, over 17.5 receiving yards at -115 here. This is kind of the forgotten piece in this Indiana offense.
He's kind of a do-it-all kind of guy.
He really is, man. And he's a very productive tight end. Like, he's their fifth leading receiver, so I understand he doesn't put up a lot of flashy numbers, but he has been very consistent in his time here. He has, so we're getting the number at Bet365 was 17.5, which is key. Definitely for the shops, not prop around. But for everything, obviously shop around. But for college football playoff props, like, I've seen like 10 yards of difference.
Yeah.
It is very different. So shop around. But Bet365 had him at over 17.5 earlier today, -115. Last couple games, 18, 36, 20, 65, 51, 22, 17. You have to go back to October 25th to find a game that he did not hit this, and he had 17, and he missed it by half a yard. Yeah. So he is a very consistent part. He's not flashy, he's not sexy, but Mendoza
he's on the field a lot. I mean, they do like to run the ball. They like to keep a balanced offense. They put him in motion quite a bit and run him into the flat, and he can pick up some extra yards. They use him as a blocking tight end as well. So, yeah, I don't mind that pick at all.
He's kind of a forgotten piece, but if you look at him, like, he's a very
He's not Surratt, he's not Becker, he's not Cooper, but he's on the field all the time.
Or tight end. Jeez, this whiskey's getting to me, man. I'm already slurring my words. This is tough. Yeah, right. Next guy up here. So another thing I didn't talk about here, looking at where I think Indiana can have an edge, is the pass defense of Miami. So Miami, they're the number 5 scoring defense. They're the number 6 rushing defense, right? Yep. But they're a very meh pass defense. They're giving up over 205 yards a game. I think that, when you look at Indiana, they have the number 2 scoring offense. They have put up over 243 yards a game for their passing offense. They're very balanced. They're like 218 rushing, 243 passing. But I think that you look at Trinidad Chambliss went for 275. Julian Sayin, I think, went for almost 300. Jennings has put up over 300 against them. Like, good quarterbacks, you can get this defensive backfield. And no Xavier Lucas, right? Potentially no Damari Brown. So they're a little bit beat up, a little bit thin in the back end there. So the other guy I'm going to go with is Charlie Becker. I've got him 2 ways here. I'm going to go longest reception over 24.5. He is their big play guy, which is kind of interesting because when you think traditional, they've got some studs out there, and you think of this long, lanky white kid, you're not really thinking of him as the downfield threat, but that is exactly what he is. He's kind of came on. I know he was injured during the year, and he's kind of came on lately. He's a true sophomore out of Nashville, Tennessee. Look, you look at his last couple of games, 36 longest reception, 30 longest reception, 51. He had a 6 in there. Then it was 48, 53, 52. This guy, he catches deep balls, and that is what Miami can be susceptible to. We saw it a little bit with Trinidad in the second half when they really got going. I mean, I think Chambliss had like 80 yards at halftime, where I was like, oh shit, his over passing yards is cooked. There's no way this hits.
And he threw for 200 yards in the second half.
Yeah, right? So, I mean, you can get Miami with some yards. You saw Jeremiah Smith pop off and have some games there. So I think Charlie Becker is a guy who, again, not the physical specimen that Omar Cooper and Elijah Surratt are.
Did you just try to compare Charlie Becker to Jeremiah Smith?
I did not. I'm just saying that Jeremiah Smith, we saw, he went over the top a lot. Shane had Cardinal Tate on a couple other ones he just didn't see. but I think they're susceptible to the long ball. So I like his longest reception over 24.5. I also like him over 45.5 receiving yards. Again, he's had 48, 51, 126, 6, and then 108, 118, 52. He's been very consistent here. This is probably my only prop I'm going to give out that I am going to be laddering the receiving yards. Because again, I mean, when he hits, he's got the big play potential. He had 126 against Ohio State, 108 against Wisconsin, 118 against Penn State. So he's kind of the one that you may not game plan for, and that may be at your detriment, especially with this Miami secondary. So those are the two Indiana guys that two Indiana props, and I've got two Miami props. You're probably not going to love this one. Carson Beck, a little bit of an interception ladder. When it rains, it pours for Carson Beck. In his 2 losses against Louisville and SMU, he's had 6 interceptions. I think it was 4 and 2. So again, when it rains, it pours. You start at 1 interception, you got to pay some juice at minus 150. Then 2 interceptions is plus 320. 3 interceptions is plus 950. Turnover ratio is a thing in this game. You talk about both these teams are very, very good. So they're both going to have positive turnover ratios. Miami's is plus 11. Well, when you look at Indiana's, they're plus 21 on the turnover ratio. They're one of the tops in the nation. We obviously saw the pick 6 against Dante Moore, first play of the game. Carson Beck, when he has to throw the ball, he puts the ball in some risky spots. This college football playoff, he threw a pick last week, but he's gotten away with it most part. He hasn't really done that because they've been able to run the ball. The number 2 rush defense in the nation resides in Bloomington, Indiana. They only allow 75 yards a game. Now, this Miami offensive line is legit. So I am not expecting them to completely shut down the run game. But I do think that Ole Miss, one of the worst, is not a good rush defense. I was on Mark Fletcher to go off because they are not a good rush defense. I mean, Tulane was able to run on Ole Miss, right? Ohio State, that was impressive to be able to do that to Ohio State. A&M, that was more about their defense getting tired because their offense kind of kept them on the field. If you look at the first half, neither offense was able to do anything. So I do think this is the best rush defense that they've played. But Carson Beck, going to have to throw the ball a little bit more. So I'm going to go with this interception ladder there because when it rains, it pours. So that's where I'm going with him. And then the last one, Shamar Brown, over 25.5 rush yards for Miami. Look, Mark Fletcher is great. I think Mark Fletcher brings a lot to the table. But even last game, they have been trying to get into this a little bit of needing to spell him with Shamar Brown, the sophomore there out of Nebraska, Omaha, at least where he's from. But look at the last game.
Shamar Brown is a nice change of pace back. Mark Fletcher is one of those big bruisers that's going to run downhill every single time. Shamar Brown, he's a feisty little guy. But
5'11", 214.
Yeah, he's got some juice to him.
Yeah, and so look, biggest game of the season, right? It's the next game when you're in the playoff. 14 carries last week for 54 yards. He had 54, 26 in the 2 playoff games. He didn't play. He was injured against Texas A&M because he got hurt in the pick game. So in there's 2 playoff games he's played, he's went over this number, 14 carries. Like, they're giving him the volume. So if he's going to have the volume, I think Mark Fletcher is going to be okay, but his numbers up in the high 70s, 80s. I think that's tough to ask. So I'm going to go with Shamar Brown there as a nice change of pace back.
I really like that play, especially because I think that's where this game comes down to is, can Miami establish the run? If they can, I don't just like them to be able to cover this 8.5 point spread, but potentially on the money line as well. If they can't, to your point earlier, one of your 3 points, Carson Beck can turn into a pumpkin. We've seen it over and over again throughout his career. Fernando Mendoza has been lights out, and he is the better quarterback in this matchup. But I think if Miami can get the ball rolling on the ground with either Brown or Fletcher, this is going to be a tight one.
That's the key, right? And that's in the first 2 games you saw it, and then they were able to run against Ole Miss. It was just a little bit more of a shootout, but the run game really took them. Beck did not have to do much against A&M nor Ohio State, which if he had to, I think that would have led to some trouble. So if I'm just going to trust Indiana's defense a little bit, but I do like Shamar Brown over the 24.5. It's just a low number. He's going to get some carries here. So I like that there. I will say is not an official play, but his anytime touchdowns around 3-1. He's scored, what was it? He's scored in both the playoff games. So if you can get, 3-1, I do think I will have a little bit on that. But we'll see how many touchdowns are scored. I've got 2 touchdown plays, one for each team. The first one, Malachi Tony. I've played it almost every week for the Miami Hurricanes, and I'm not going to stop now, especially at this price. I got him at plus 155. I think that's absurd. He was around even money for the other games here. In the first game, he was the only one to score a touchdown in that game, period. I've talked about it multiple times. They will give it to him on the ground. They'll throw him a screen pass. They'll look for him down the field. He is the separator of this team. He scored in 2 out of the 3 playoff games. He's got a streak where he scored in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the last 6. He's got 6 touchdowns in his last 6 games. At plus 150, I think this price is outrageous. As much as I'm on Indiana, I just think if you're getting plus 150 from Malachi Tony to find the end zone, I think that's crazy. So again, they throw him the ball. They do screens. They design a lot of their offense around this kid. It's just insane as a true freshman how good he is. Mm-hmm. But Malachi Tony plus 155. And the other one's a long shot. Indiana defense 6-1. We saw it first play of the game last week. I've talked about Carson Beck's at times propensity to turn the ball over. In the version that I see this game going, I think Indiana gets to a little bit of a lead. I think it's a 7-point game, or maybe let's say 7-10-point game. I think Miami feels like they need to press a little bit, and that is where you want to get. That's where you get in trouble against this Indiana team. Yeah. I think that whether it is a forced fumble, whether it is a probably likely more of a pick six variety, I'm going to go the Indiana defense at 6-1. That's a little bit of my long shot play there. They're just extremely prepared. They are very disciplined defense. They are ball hawks. Pond, obviously, one of their best cover guys, I would say, in the country. Carson Beck, when he being a Florida fan, watching him at Georgia, you watched it against Louisville, against SMU. When it rains, it pours, and it gets pretty ugly. We haven't seen it yet. We saw a little bit of it last game, but in the version I think this game where Indiana covers, I do think there is a defensive touchdown. So give me that at 6-1. So
I don't know. I might just have to see if you can put one in on Miami's defense to score a touchdown. I mean, Indiana has 1 fumble all season. It was week 1.
That's insane.
But at the same time, I don't know if Fernando Mendoza has been hit by a guy like Hakeem Mesidor or a Ruben Bain or one of those guys up front.
He did. So, he should have fumbled. He did fumble last game. He just got a very lucky bounce that Pat Coogan was there.
That just seems to be the case for Indiana. And this is where I think the tide's going to start turning.
One more game, baby. One more game. But hey, folks, that is your college football national championship breakdown, best bets. We looked at it from all angles. As a little bit of recap, Derek is taking the Miami Hurricanes plus the 8.5. I am on the Indiana Hoosiers, not only 8.5. I also like them on the alt line. We gave out a bunch of props. I will ask you this. Are you going to be playing Miami on the money line? Because in my mind, I think it's either a close game or it's a coin flip and Miami's able to run the ball and they could very well win, or it's an Indiana blowout. So where are you going? Are you just sticking with the 8.5, or do you think Miami has a real shot to win this outright?
Do they have a shot? Yes. Am I putting money on it? No. I do think that Indiana ends up winning this game. I think it's a 3-4, maybe a touchdown point game. I think it's a 1-score game. But at the end of the day, to all of your points that you've made throughout the show, I do think that Indiana is a much more disciplined team. And I think that's what is going to end up biting Miami in the ass for the whole thing.
Yeah. All right. So we both have the Indiana Hoosiers being your 2025 college football national championship or chapter champions. I mean, just think about that sentence 3 years ago. Insane what we have in college football. Very, very fun college football season, brother. Man,
the Big Ten is king.
It was Big Ten. We'll see. Maybe the ACC, not the SEC right now. I'll tell you that. But hey, man, very, very fun season. This was the first season of us doing a college football playoff breakdown. So let us know what you enjoyed. Let us know what your national championship pick is down in the comments below. You guys have been really awesome this season. A lot of love and support. We'd love if you just continue that for one more week. What do you got for the people before we get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, we have basically we have 4 or 5 days left of college football for this season. We only have like 3 weeks left of football, period,
Right.
in this season. So, if you're watching the national championship game, if you're interested in college football, most likely you're interested in the NFL playoffs as well. We just did our NFL show for the divisional round last night. We're going to continue to do that all the way through the Super Bowl here in a few weeks. But you know what they say, a lock a day keeps the bookie away. And here at the DGen Docs,
we've got your prescription. Look at that. Look at you leading right into the tagline. And because you said NFL, I just have to say it. John Harbaugh is the new head coach of the New York Football Giants. I am very excited. All right, folks, look, 8 more games of playoff football left in this season. Do not miss out on anything because come a month from now, we're going to be begging for football. But hey, you guys have been awesome. We'd love, don't forget, like, subscribe on your way out. We've taken this from like 100 to, we're almost at 900. We're at 900 plus now in one season. You guys have been fucking awesome. We appreciate you guys. But as Derek said, from the Doc and Professor Locke here on DFSG Plus, we are out of here. I'll hit it.